Hi, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be discussing Linux shell scripting. So shell scripting is basically just a set of commands written together in a file and executed to serve a particular purpose. So in Linux, shell scripting is there starting from the boot up. You can check the etcrc.d directory in your Linux systems for the shell scripts which are run at startup. So shell scripting does not include arrays, pointers, or object-oriented concepts. So it's not completely a language, but on a Linux system, it does serve this purpose, helping to create and schedule a set of instructions as per your requirement. So surely, where there is a shell, there is a way. Before moving to shell scripting, let us try to understand how Linux system works. We'll have an underlying hardware on which our Linux OS will be hosted. So we have kernels, which are actually an interface between this hardware and the processes running on the Linux systems. Kernel basically does process management, storage management, memory management, etc. for the Linux OS. Then we have shells, which is the user interface from the Linux OS to communicate with the kernel. Whatever commands we want to run are communicated to the kernel using the shell. Now on this shell, we can run various utilities and commands like ls, cat, vi, nano, etc. On this layer is where we'll be using our shell scripts to execute these multiple commands in a single program. Now let's look at different types of shells in a Linux system. So this is a roadmap of different shells invented during different times. These are only different flavors of shells with little differences on how the user interface looks like on each shell. The most commonly used shells here are Bourne shell, C shell, Corn shell, and Born again shell. The shell on which we are going to work today and which is most commonly used is Born again shell. Now let's assume that you have an activity wherein you have to search for a file and you have to archive it, and then maybe you have to move it to a particular path. So on Linux system, you would go about it by first finding the file using find.name. Then you will be archiving it using tar-cvf. Then you will be moving the file using the mv command. So it will require three set of commands to do this activity. Now how about writing these three commands in a single file and saving it as a shell script in a single activity.sh file. .sh is the extension for shell scripts. And then you can reuse this file to do these three operations whenever you want. So this is what shell scripting does in a Linux system. So let us now write our first shell script. So I'll use the VI editor. I'll name my script. And as I told you, shell script ends with .sh extension. To edit a VI editor, you have to press I to start inserting. The first line in a shell script is a shebang or a hashbang in which you specify the shell on which you want to run your shell script. So I've provided the path of bash shell. You can comment a line in shell script using hash. So as a practice, always try to have a comment about what the script is there for. So I am writing a script to learn. Write the author name so that whoever refers it later can know the details, like when was it written, and maybe add a version also so that if there is a change to be done to the script, that change can be mentioned as a next version. So whatever we needed, we added as a hash comment. Now let's say it's just a basic program to print hello world. So I'll just write echo hello world. Now you can save this shell script by pressing escape and typing in :wq, that is save and quit. To run the shell script, simply use sh and the script name. And here is my output. So here I'm using a variable name and I can provide it any value, say John. So that is variable name equal to variable value. Now I can use this variable to print its value using $sign. I'll run the script again. So you see that variable value has been printed. Now what about if you want to read the variable value from command line? I am asking a question. So I can use read and read it to a variable, and then I can print that value. So I'll use $name to print that variable. So let's see how it runs. So you can see there is a prompt asking me to type in a value. So when I type in that value, this is stored in the variable name, and that value is printed. Now let us take a look at conditional statements in shell scripting. So we can write an if statement like this. If opening bracket, the condition or the expression which you want to check, then you will use the then keyword and the statement which you want to execute, and an if is closed by fi. Use else and your statement, and then the fi will be closed after the else. We can also use else if to check another expression by using elif and the expression, and this fi will mark the closing of this if statement. So I can write it like if opening bracket the expression. So we can pass in command line arguments in our shell script, and that is represented by $numbers 1 to 9. So the first argument which I pass will be $1. So I'm checking here if the value which I pass is greater than 10, and then I'll echo that it is greater than 10. And let me write an else statement for it to echo less than 10. And I'll close this if statement with an fi. And let me pass a command line argument, say 3. So 3 is less than 10. Now if I run with 30, so it printed from the if statement. So this is how conditional statements work in shell scripting. Now let us have a look at iterative statements. So first let us look how a while loop is written in shell scripting. Now I'm writing a while loop to check while the value of input is not equal to, say, buy. I'm telling it to do echo, then I'll read into the variable input. So while writing these statements, maintaining the intent is very important. And when I'm done with the while loop, I'm closing it with a done. Be careful about the spacing between the keywords and the bracket. When I run it, it's telling me to type something. So I'm typing hi. So it says you have typed hi. And when I type buy, it had exited the loop. So this is how a while loop is written in shell scripting. So now let us look at how a for loop is written in shell scripting. So I can write for, say, variable I in, say, a set of values 1 2 3 4 5, do echo number in loop is, say, the value of the looping variable $I, and then I can close the for loop using done. Now I'll save this. Now I'll run the script. So as you can see, the for loop is iterating the I variable. Now let us take a look at switch case statement in shell scripting. So this is a script I have written using switch case. It is asking to enter a value. It is reading it into a variable. And we are starting our switch case with a case keyword. And I'll check that if that variable is either R or D or star means any other value. If it is any other input, I have called print help. So in shell scripting, you can write a different function and call those functions. So you can see I have called print help function, and on the top I have written that function. So this is how you write a function name, brackets, and inside the curly braces. Now let us run this switch case. So if I enter R, it says you selected to read. If I enter D, it says selected to delete. If I enter any other value, it goes to that function and prints to enter R or D. Now let me show you a practical application of all the things we have learned till now regarding shell scripting. So say I have a file with this value. So I have written the script like this. I am taking the command line arguments $1 and $2 and putting them in these two variables. Then I have written some functions. So let's go down. So the execution will start from here, from the switch case. It will check for that $opt value. That is the first command line parameter which we give. So if it is a R, it will echo that you have selected to read, and it will call the read function. And if it is a D, it will call a delete function. And if it is anything else, it will call the print help function. The read function is calling a check function. What check function does is, it checks if there is a file existing with the name which we have provided as the second parameter. So what we are doing in read function is, we are iterating in the for loop. By running this command, the output which the cat returns is fed into the I iteration, and thus line by line I'm printing the data inside that file. And if the delete function is called, it will again check if that file exists, and if it exists, it is doing rm-r on that file. So now let's run our script. I'm giving, say, read, first parameter as r, that is read, and second parameter as the file name, that is data.txt. So you see, I had selected read, and it has done cat and iterated through the value. And I can run it again with a delete, and you can see the file has been deleted. So hope this information was helpful to you. Thank you for watching my video.